Hey there, how are you doing? My name is Angel, and I like all things that are mysterious. So we're back, and we're gonna do another crime story. This one comes from the book Murder and Mayhem in Rockford, Illinois by Kathi Kresol, and the story is called Unfathomable. Unfathomable. I'm sure I said it wrong, but anyways, we're just gonna get right into the story. And I've missed you guys. I've missed this. So let's just get right into it. Susan Brady and Cecilia Burns were very excited. They were helping clean blackboards in their classroom at St. Patrick's before heading over to Cecilia's house to do homework and listen to records. It was December 20th, 1965, and it was chilly, so the girls bundled up before leaving the school. Susan had received new boots as an early Christmas present from her parents and was excited to wear them. They left the school around 3:15 p.m. and walked to Cecilia's house on Irving Avenue. The time passed all too quickly, and soon it was time for Susan to go home for dinner. Cecilia offered to walk part of the way with her since it got dark so quickly at that time of the year. They walked to the intersection of School Street and Albert Avenue together before going their separate ways at 5:45 p.m. Susan still had quite a walk ahead of her to reach her house at 703 North Day Avenue. Cecilia was frightened by strange noises on the way home and looked back several times to check on Susan's progress. She would be the last person to see Susan Brady alive. Susan was the daughter of James and Norma Brady. In 1965, they had three sons: Mike, 16, Tim, 14, and Tom, 9, and two daughters, Susan, 11, and Nancy, 5. James worked as a reporter for the Rockford Labor News. Susan's mother, Norma, grew concerned as the sky darkened and the day turned into evening. Susan was always home by dinner. After James came home from work, they looked for her on foot, following the route that Susan would have taken home. They spoke to Cecilia, who told them she left Susan at the intersection of Albert Avenue and School Street. As the evening grew later, they searched with their car. 2 hours after they started searching, they decided to call the police. James explained later that he didn't want to involve the police too early. Makes sense, because most times the police make you wait 24, 48 hours, whatever it is, and then at that time, I feel like it's too late. They say the first 48 hours after somebody goes missing is the most important. So why do we wait 48 hours to go look for somebody? Especially a little kid. Makes no sense to me. They're like, oh, you put in all this effort. Okay. It's a kid. Who knows? And look how many kids come up missing. You know, it is what it is. It's sad, is what it is. The family really felt Susie would walk in the door any second, but of course she didn't. The next day, there was still no sign of Susan, and more people got involved in the search. On December 22nd, the search became a full-blown effort. There were men with dogs and others on foot who were divided into teams of 5 men accompanied by a police officer. So they're taking the initiative into their own hands. Good for them. And the police got involved too, which is even shocking to me. Just saying. These search parties were all coordinated from the number 6 firehouse at 430 North Springfield Avenue. Police Sergeant Robert Selgren coordinated the ground search and gave the over 200 people who volunteered their last-minute instructions. There were also 10 airplanes taking part in the search under the supervision of Captain H.W. Lundberg. They were in the air looking for anything that should be checked out by the ground crew. Susan's father and 2 elder brothers helped in the search. Norma sat in their beautiful home waiting for some word that Susan had been found, safe and sound. The house had been decorated for Christmas, and they plugged in the tree every night so the house would be all lit when Susan came home. As the massive search was taking place, Susan's school held a special prayer service, and over 600 students attended. Susan was in Sister Leora's sixth grade class, and the day's newspaper had quotes from the teacher and several of Susie's classmates describing her. Sister Leora said that Susie was a good student, quiet, conscientious, and helpful to her fellow classmates. Susan's friends said she was fun, friendly, and that she loved to dance to her favorite group, the Beatles. I mean, this is the 60s. Yeah, they were very popular. Them and Elvis. I don't know if you guys seen the Elvis movie. It was like 2 hour long movie. And there's not a lot of movies that can hold my attention span because I usually put on a movie, I get bored of it, and then I walk away and go find something else to do. But I was glued to that Elvis movie, and I don't know what it was about it, but I really liked it. And I highly recommend it, especially if you liked Elvis at all. I feel like the guy that played him did a really good job too. So he said it was very stressful. I can imagine. That was probably a lot of stress on him. Anyways, back to the story. On Christmas Eve, the Brady family asked for a special Christmas wish. Our only request is that everyone pray for her safe return and keep looking in their yards to see if they can find her. James Brady was quoted in the paper. Wait, so they thought that she was just in somebody's yard? I'm a little confused by his one Christmas wish. I mean, yeah, I keep looking for her, but why are we looking in the yards? I don't. Okay. 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 They also thanked the community for the great response. Many people helped by taking part in the search, answering the telephone, bringing food for the family and volunteers, and assisting with the other Brady children. Because remember, they still had all the other kids there, too. The whole community seemed determined to find this little girl. The family also received a very special gift from Bishop Laura's T. Lane of the Rockford Diocese. Diocese? Diocese. 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 I don't know how to pronounce that word. Huh. I don't know how to pronounce that. Why? Why can't I say it? Diocese. Diocese. I was right. All right. The family also received a very special gift from Bishop Laura's T. Lane of the Rockford Diocese. Sure, I said that wrong, even though I just looked up how to say it. Who had just returned from the Vatican. The bishop brought the family a special wooden figure of the Virgin Mary holding the baby Jesus that had been blessed by the Pope. He gave the family the beautiful gift on Christmas Eve. There was a $2,500 reward offered for information leading to the safe return of Susan by the Rockford Register-Republic and the Rockford Morning Star. Other people gave money toward the reward, including a number of children. Later, the Chamber of Commerce added another $1,000 to the reward. The hunt for Susan continued. One search was focused on the sugar hut. Oh God, this one's gonna get me too. Just because Sugar River is where they found Tammy Lynn Tracy. Too many fucking coincidences. All right. The hunt for Susan continued. One search was focused on the Sugar River area, which is where they also found Tammy Lynn Tracy, but that was back in the 80s. So this all took place in the 60s. Too many coincidences here, okay? So they focused on the Sugar River area, which is where Tammy Lynn Tracy's body was found. And I'm going to cover her story once I find more information. I'm still working on it. Nothing out there. I'm wondering if I can reach out to her mom or something. And, when I talk to people, they're like, yeah, I remember that story. Yeah, I wish I had more information, though. There's like nothing. I'm, I think eventually that's what I'll end up doing is just reaching out to her mom and be like, hey, I would like you to tell your story. And I would like to share it with the whole world. Maybe somebody can help close that case because I don't think they found the right person. I was talking to my dad and I don't think they found the right person. I think the wrong person died in prison, which happens. So, anyways, back to this story. So, one search was focused on the Sugar River area in January. The focus became the Burr Oaks Road area, but they don't say why. Deputy Sheriff Michael reported that between 40 and 50 members of the Purple Night Drum and Bugle Corps from St. Patrick's School and the Loves Park Volunteer Fire Department participated in that search area. The Christmas tree at the Brady's house still stood with the lights twinkling every night, even through the middle of January. Susan's father said, we still are hoping to have our family Christmas celebration. You guys know I can't talk. I'll never get it together. He went on to say the family was back to normal on the outside, returning to work and school. But underneath, they still jumped every time they heard a car pull into the driveway or the phone ring. I can imagine, you know. I can imagine. Around the middle of January, claims from several young girls came to the police's attention. One girl said that on the day that Susan went missing, December 20th, 1965, she was walking just a few blocks from where Susan was last seen. The 12-year-old little girl was walking home on the 1300 block of Blaisdell Street around 5:30 p.m. A man driving a 1961 green Cadillac pulled over to the side of the road and asked the girl if she wanted a ride. The girl refused, turned the corner, and walked quickly away. The man drove in the same direction where Susan was walking home. Police asked for information from anyone who might have seen the car or the man described by this little girl. The Brady family was very forthcoming about the agony their family was going through. As the police search spread and the researchers cut, as the police search spread and the searchers began to look into cisterns and wells. What's a cisterns? Cisterns. Alexa, what's a cistern?
A cistern is a container or reservoir for storing water or other liquids. It is typically constructed to capture and hold rainwater. Cisterns can vary in size from a few liters to thousands of cubic meters. By the way, you have 2 new notifications.
Cut.
Do you want to hear them?
Alexa, stop. Anyways, the family was still waiting for the phone to ring. The Bradys hadn't told their youngest child, Nancy, about Susan's disappearance. How are they hiding that? And they shouldn't hide anything from the kid anyways. Like, that's not right. I get it though, but it's still not right. You shouldn't hold anything back. You should always tell them the truth. You should let kids be involved as much as possible because that helps them develop into an adult and how to handle their emotions correctly. Okay. We can't hide them forever from this horrible world. Anyways, they sent the little girl to friends' houses to spend time there. We are trying to keep her away from home as much as possible. This house is not the right atmosphere for a child, Norma stated. But it's never going to be the right atmosphere again. So are you just going to keep the youngest child away forever? Because that's not solving no problems. That's creating worse ones. Okay? The Bradys were very touched by how wonderful and compassionate people had been to them. Cards, telegrams, and well wishes arrived at the house every day. These cards were not just from Rockford, but from all over the country. Valentine's Day 1966 started out as a bright, crisp day, but quickly turned dark as the family finally learned what happened to their beautiful young daughter. The family's hopes for reuniting with Susan were completely smashed. James and Norma were told that 25-year-old Russell Charles Dewey surrendered to FBI agents in California after returning from a flight to Mexico. So he got away. Must have been the guilty conscience thing. The older boys were brought home by a priest from St. Patrick's, and the younger boy was met by his family for a special mass. Again, James and Norma impressed all who knew them by their graciousness in the midst of this awful tragedy. At least now we know, they both said, explaining that the worst thing was imagining what might have happened. It didn't make it any easier, but at least they knew that their little girl was in heaven beyond any pain and fear. The police became suspicious of Dewey when reports by the little girls of a man in a 1961 Cadillac stopping them to offer a ride home. Dewey owned such a car until January 4th when he sold the car to Genrich and Harris Auto Sales. A day later, he quit his job and left for San Diego. During questioning, Dewey stated that he was driving on School Street around 5:45 in the evening when little Susie ran right out in front of his car near St. Patrick's Church's driveway. That doesn't make sense because she was with the other little girl and she's seen her walking. And I don't know where the St. Patrick's Church is. I'm going to go look for all this stuff because I'm sure they should still be there, hopefully. Hopefully it's not going to be like the last video that I did and I just showed you guys what remained. And I'm not even going to go drive there. It's pointless. I'm so upset about that last video. I think that's what I needed was the break. Was because I was so upset that everything that was in that story had been torn down. There was nothing to go look at. There was nothing to go see. Sad. It's really sad. But that's like the way of Rockford. They're like, tear down these old buildings and build ugly new ones. They cost all this money that they don't have. Let's spend money that we don't have. Anyways, Dewey scooped Susan up and placed her in the front seat on his trench coat to rush to Rockford Memorial Hospital for medical treatment, which is still there. They just don't call it that anymore. He drove as fast as he could, but when he reached the entrance, the little girl was dead. He checked her heartbeat and pulse, but it was no use. She was already gone. Dewey became frightened, he said, because he had no insurance and was afraid of being sued. Later on February 14th, at a press conference, Rockford Police Chief Delbert Peterson shared the sad news of Susie's death and Dewey's arrest for the crime. "I'm proud today to be a police officer," Peterson stated. He was proud of the police force for finding the clues that later led to the arrest of the person responsible for what had happened to Susie. Peterson explained to reporters that Dewey had admitted killing Susan, but stated that it was an accident. Peterson also reported that they had found no evidence of Susan in the car. State's Attorney William Nash then spoke to describe some of the clues that were followed to solve Susan's murder. The men described the search for the car reported by that little girl. Following this lead, they came upon Dewey's name for the first time. Their suspicions grew when they found out he had sold the car, quit his job, and then left town after Susan's disappearance. The police involved the FBI to hunt Dewey down while they started to look for evidence in Rockford. The police found out that Dewey had moved in with Mr. and Miss Floyd Caruthers, his grandparents, during the summer of 1965. The police searched the Caruthers' home after the reports from the attempted kidnap of the little girl on the same day the Susie had disappeared. The search led to find an incinerator made from a 50-gallon drum. They also found some suspicious matter in the ashes in the bottom of the can that appeared to be a human bone. The police sent that to the FBI lab in Washington, D.C. It would eventually come back as being bone from a child 8 to 12 years old. A fugitive warrant was issued for Dewey. Dewey admitted he was staying at the Caruthers' house during December while his grandparents were in Florida. This is where he decided to take Susie after he realized she was dead. He told police that he had panicked after he realized that she was dead, and he drove to his grandparents' house on West State Street near Meridian. It was here that he jammed Susan's body, book bag, and his trench coat into a 50-gallon incinerator. He used gasoline to set the items on fire. Dewey was shocked when his uncle stopped by the house for a visit. He convinced the uncle to join him inside the house to watch television. Dewey stepped out to check on the fire several times. There were some larger pieces of bone left, and Dewey disposed of these in the Winnebago County landfill, located next to the JL Case plant where he worked. JL Case? I'm thinking JL Clark. So there's a factory called JL Clark here. Never mind. It's probably not the same thing, but it's kind of funny because it's JL Clark plant, and they make like the containers for like the lids for like the black pepper for McCormick, and they also make the icebreaker containers. I worked there temporarily. It was through a temp service a long time ago. But yeah, long story short, I don't think it's the same place. We'll find out. We'll find out. I always read the story and then do my research and I put it into editing, you know? So that way I'm learning the story as you guys do. Anyways, let's keep going. The police didn't believe Dewey's story of an accident. They felt that he had abducted little Susan and taken her to the garage behind his home, where he killed her with a sledgehammer. Thought he said he hit her with a car, which wasn't true anyways because the other little girl and her walked away from the school, okay? And then they went their separate ways. So that wasn't true anyways. It took some time before Dewey was brought back to Rockford. Dewey was very concerned about returning to Rockford because he didn't think he would get a fair trial there. He's worried about that. Assistant State's Attorney Alfred Cohen flew out to San Diego to serve the warrant for Dewey's arrest for the murder of Susan. Dewey was returned to Rockford in March. His attorney argued for a change of venue, and it was finally decided that the trial would be held in Sycamore. Because you think that's going to make a difference? On February 22nd, 1966, St. Patrick's Church held a memorial service for Susan. Hundreds of family, friends, classmates, and members of the Rockford community came together to pay their last respects for the little girl so many had searched for and prayed would be returned safe and sound. The church was filled with beautiful flowers and the sounds of music. The Brady family was there with other family members. Many who attended spoke of being impressed with the inspirational way the Brady family conducted themselves. The Brady family asked the community for fair treatment of the man who killed their daughter. Better than I, because I would have been like, the sick SOB right here killed my kid. An eye for an eye, right? Anyways, the trial of Russell Dewey began on August 8th, 1966 in Sycamore, Illinois. I'm not driving to Sycamore. I'm not doing it. There's nothing there. Royal S. Laswell was Dewey's defense attorney. State's Attorney William Nash was assisted by attorney What the fuck? There's so many long run-on sentences in this story. Roy S. Laswell was Dewey's defense attorney. State's Attorney William Nash was assisted by Assistant State's Attorney Alfred W. Cowan and Circuit Judge Charles G. Siddell presided over the trial. Why did they gotta do the fucking initial names, dude? Like, that just makes it even worse. Can you imagine what that initial stood for? I probably couldn't have pronounced it anyways, but jeez, come on. Give me a fucking break here. Just do last names. I don't want to. Anyways, Dr. J. Lawrence, physical anthropologist at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., testified about the largest piece of bone found in the incinerator as being a vertebrae from an immature person. He also testified that the other bone fragments found came from a child 8 to 12 years old. 4 little girls also testified during the trial and told the jury how a man in a green 1961 Cadillac had approached them. When asked if they could identify the man, all 4 did not hesitate as they pointed to Dewey sitting at the defense table. Good job, little kids. Good job. Good job. Don't be scared of him. Don't be scared of him. In a dramatic moment during the trial, Laswell grabbed an axe that was sitting on a desk, picked up the axe, and hurled it past the jury, back into the corridor, just missing a deputy sheriff by 6 inches. That's not to be in the courtroom, and you know it, he shouted at the judge, referring to the judge's decision not to allow the axe in the courtroom at the end of the trial because the part it played in the alleged murder was not made clear. Judge Seidel remained calm and told him to sit down, and a court bailiff retrieved the axe and returned it to the courtroom. What the fuck? He picked up the axe and threw it and almost hit a sheriff, and all the judge did was tell him to sit the fuck down. Thought that was like attempted murder, right? Shouldn't they just put him back in jail and gave him the fucking death penalty anyways because you killed this little girl? Now you attempted to kill a sheriff in court in front of everybody. He doesn't care. Just saying, guys. Like, they just be letting people get the fuck away with everything. And they wonder why shit's as bad as it is. Just saying. Just saying. There's no repercussions for their fucking actions. That's what the problem is. Getting all worked up. I'm really trying not to get worked up, but I'm really worked up on this one. We are almost 30 minutes in. Oh my god, shut the fuck up, Angel, and just tell the story. Let's get into it. Come on. Norma Brady, Susan's mother, was the last of the 33 witnesses called by State's Attorney Nash. Her sorrow was hard to witness, and many in the court had tears in their eyes when she stepped from the stand. The defense called 13 witnesses, and Dewey was the last to testify for the defense. On August 22nd, the DeKalb County jury deliberated for 3 hours and 47 minutes. They had the choice between verdicts of not guilty, guilty, and guilty with the recommendation of the death penalty. Judge Seidel warned that he would tolerate no outbursts as the verdict was read. Jury foreman Frank Cousin handed the verdict to the clerk. The air was thick with tension as everyone waited to hear the verdict. Dewey did not even look up as Deputy Circuit Clerk Wayne Latula read the verdict. Russell Dewey was found guilty of the murder of 11-year-old Susan Brady. He showed no emotion, but his first wife, Sandra, was in the courtroom and began to cry. Dewey patted her arm as if to comfort her. His mother and grandparents were also in the courtroom and were obviously shaken by the verdict. Dewey apparently did his time without any further incidents, and news came in February 1987 that Dewey would be released in April. That's the same fucking year that Tammy Lynn Tracy. Okay, I'm gonna really have to look into Tammy Lynn Tracy because that's the year that she was murdered. So many coincidences. In April, that he would be released in April. There were a lot of people who were angered by the release. Dewey was originally sentenced to 20 to 50 years, but was released after serving 20. Dewey was born in Rockford on December 9th, 1940. His parents were Charles and Ardith Dewey. Ardith. Huh. His father died when he was very young, and his mother remarried 3 times. See, I can't do that. I cannot do that. Why? Why do that? Why keep doing that? I did it once. I'm not doing it again. I'm not getting married and divorced. The first one didn't work. There won't be no more chances. I'm done. Just saying. Anyways, Dewey dropped out of high school and found employment in a factory and then as a landscaper. Russell Dewey was married the first time to Sandra Jean on December 21st, 1963, and divorced her on April 10th, 1964. That was a very short lived. They didn't even make it a fucking year. Didn't even make it a year. They got married in December 21st, right? 1963. And he divorced her on April 10th, 1964. So essentially 4 months later, he divorced her. I don't think that's a divorce. Isn't that an annulment? I don't know. Anyways, and why was she so beat up and crying at his fucking trial? That really doesn't make. And why is this pertinent to this case, anyways? Why is this coming in about this little girl's murder? Okay, that's what I want to know. Who cares about him? I don't care about him. I don't care how many times he's been married. His first wife. Why was his first wife there crying? And why do we care about this? I don't care about this. But now I do. All right, anyways, let's figure out why. Dewey next married Susie E. on August 22nd, 1964, and divorced her on August 12th, 1965. So essentially, he divorced her days before their first year anniversary. You know, I can't. And that was essentially right after he married and divorced the last woman. So, yeah, essentially, he divorced that one April 10th, 1964, married this one August 22nd, 1964, and then divorced her days before their first year anniversary, August 12th, 1965. So, anyways, he charged both of the women with mental cruelty. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe stop relationship hopping and then marrying them right away. Sandra and Russell did attempt reconciliation during November and December 1965, but Sandra returned to her second husband. What does this have to do with this story? But Sandra returned to her second husband. So was he her third husband? Why do we need to know about that too? Okay, anyways, there was nothing in Russell Dewey's background to indicate that he was capable, of such a horrible crime. Okay, got it. Susan's memory was honored by the opening of the Susan Brady Memorial Library at St. Patrick's Elementary School. The Bradys dedicated the money that had been donated by community members, students, and the Chamber of Commerce. On the anniversary of Susan's 12th birthday, St. Patrick's Church held a special memorial mass in her name. Susan and her family are still remembered by many in the city of Rockford, and 2015 will mark the 50th anniversary of her death. The little girl who disappeared so long ago joined this community together in a way that nothing had before. Her death touched everyone, and some would say that it changed Rockford forever. And that is the end of that story. I was really confused towards the end why they were talking about how many times he had been married and how many times his one wife had been married. Like, what does that have to do with anything? But anyways, what do you think of that horrible story? Like that poor little girl. Do you think he hit her with the car, or do you think he beat her with the sledgehammer? I mean, he did try to cover up the evidence. He tried to burn the evidence and her body and then try to dispose of everything. But I don't know. He seems like a sick fuck to me. I don't think that it's right that he got out of jail. I think he should have lived his last days in jail. But, it's probably the same problem that we have now is that people don't serve their full sentences because all the damn jails are full because there's no real repercussions for shit. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like, oh, go sit in jail for 50 years. You get free room and board, free meals. You don't even have to think. It's a fucking mindless ass living. Why? Why? There's some people that are homeless. They're gonna go commit a fucking crime because they have nowhere to fucking eat and sleep because what? But you give criminals free room and board. What about the homeless people? Okay. Can't we get them something too? Like help them out so they're homeless. They're not criminals. You're doing more for the fucking criminals than you are for our fucking homeless people here. Just saying. I'm on a tangent. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I don't think it's right. But it has nothing to do with this story. I mean, it kind of does because he got free room and board after he killed that poor little girl, that 12-year-old little girl. Anyways, it's a horrific story. I'm gonna go do some research and I'm gonna put it all into this video. And I'm also gonna go shoot footage because I swear to God, some of that has to be there. Some of it. I mean, West State, they tore down a lot of houses on West State and then they made it like double lanes and shit, which I think you guys seen in the last video. I didn't go there because I didn't even have my car. I was driving my dad's car, which is a gas guzzler, and I was like, fuck that. I'm not driving all over Rockford in dad's car. But anyways, I got my car back. So now I think it's time to get started on some traveling. And I'm so excited and it's going to be a good time. And it's going to be good to kind of get away from all this. Although I like to hear about the history and it just goes to show that shit doesn't really change. So this has just been a part of life forever, you know. Anyways, on that note, if you guys liked this video, give me a thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos like this and see what I have in store in the future, because I'm going to start traveling, I'm going to start doing travel live streams. Um, Go ahead and subscribe. You know, like there's some things that I'm super excited about. I'm really just trying to come out of my shell this year because of the horrific year I've had. You know, it's been one thing after another, and I'm just really hopeful. And if you guys remember my video where I was talking about the three sins, you know, hopeful was one of them. But anyways, I appreciate you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And, you know, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.